Welcome, Kevin, to the Transition and Thrive podcast. I'm John Stokes, and today I'm interviewing Kevin. How are you doing, Kevin? And welcome.
Thanks, John. I'm doing great. It's a
Yep, you're.
lovely morning here in Southern California.
Oh boy, it is indeed. Yeah, I'm looking over my shoulder right now, going, Kevin. When we're done, I might go have lunch outside today.
Sounds like a plan.
um, Kevin and I met some years ago. Kevin, specifically, how long has it been?
It's been about 2.5 years.
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
to say, yeah, time really flew by.
yeah.
I, I,
Time.
I was about to say a year and a half, but I realized I missed a year.
There we go. And Kevin was going through a job change, essentially. It was forced upon him. He was essentially a byproduct of what we call the WARN Act, WARN, which stands for Workforce Adjustment Retraining Notification. That means Kevin worked with a very large company that was doing essentially a mass layoff. So, Kevin, I want to walk the viewers and listeners back to that time. So, we're going to take you back to the 2.5 years, if you would. What
Mhm.
happened? I mean, did you get notified through your superiors that your time's up?
Yeah, I basically did. And it was a shock, we'll say, to
Oh.
say the least. I was very surprised when I got called into my leader's office and told that my role had been eliminated.
And how long were you working at that company for, and what capacity or what capacities?
I had been with that company since 1999, so it was about 24 years.
Wow.
And I worked in one capacity in IT for about 17 of those years. And then I shifted over to customer experience about 7 years prior. And I started as an IT system administrator in 1999. And ultimately, my final position was I was a director of customer experience for support.
Okay. Did you enjoy that job? Was it something that
I loved it.
invigorated you?
I overall, I absolutely loved it. I mean, you don't stay at some
Mhm.
place for 24 years without, really loving what you do.
Yeah, yeah. And so, okay, so you're pulled into that office environment. They said, Kevin, for intents and purposes, you're going through this transition. We kind of met at that point when you attended a financial planning workshop, Transition and Thrive, right?
Yeah, that's correct because, obviously you get taken back to basics as soon as your, paycheck gets interrupted. And so I was very interested in what you had to say about transition, understanding your rights, and, really just needing to understand our financial picture.
Yeah, yeah. And I got a chance to meet with you and your wife, and your wife is in the legal profession. Maybe we'll share a little bit about that coming up, just with for intents and purposes, your career change. So, all right, Kevin. So after that, what happened? I mean, let's tell the listeners kind of a little bit more about why I want to interview Kevin, because his story is just it's phenomenal what he's done with his life.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know if it's phenomenal, but
I
I'm a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
But it was rough, to say the least, because um, I've been employed almost continuously since age 11. I mean, I was a paper boy. So
Wow.
this is a serious Gen X throwback here. But I was a paper boy and I, eventually started working in a regular job. And I was continuously employed up until the end of 2023. So frankly, I didn't even know what to do with myself.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh,
because I just like, the last time I'd looked for a job, realistically looked for a job was 1999.
wow.
And I got my job out of the newspaper for God's sake. So, it was a complete shock into how to look for a new role. And this was right at the edge of or I'd say at the beginning of when a lot of mass layoffs started happening a couple of years ago. So
Okay.
basically, there was like not a month that would go by that, some company wouldn't add another 10 to 20,000 unemployed people to the workforce.
Interesting.
So my competition basically kept getting fiercer and fiercer,
Okay.
every week.
Mhm. And so were you evaluating at that point potentially a career change going from one industry to another or no?
Not really. I started with like, okay, I know customer experience, I know tech, I know customer support. So I first started looking for roles at a similar level to mine, even going down a level to kind of increase my visibility
Hmm.
and and was pretty much continuously interviewing with at least one company for about 5 months.
Wow. Okay. And in that process, were you getting discouraged? Did you feel like you were getting burnt out essentially? Any
I
of
was
those?
getting frustrated. Oh my God. The frustration level was insane of the amount of hoops I felt like I had to jump through to make myself look presentable to another company, or the things that you now need to do, like customizing your resume for every single job application and just the things you needed to do to even get your resume to be seen by
Yeah.
somebody was daunting and frustrating, we'll say, to say the least.
Wow. And in that you had mentioned that you were making or you attended the financial planning workshop that we did. I had the opportunity of meeting with you and your wife at that time. There were some financial decisions that you were making during that time, Kevin. What were they specifically that you
So,
felt that you needed to engage with us?
yeah, so the main one was wanting to understand my reality. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is that, I'm not a 20 something starting in my career. I'm getting towards the twilight of my career and, eyeing retirement at some point in the future.
mm,
So, what I wanted to understand was really what did our future look like? Was retirement even an option? And if not, what did I need to bring in order for us to live a good, reasonable, secure life.
right.
Because I knew, I was one of the benefits of the company I worked for is I was very well compensated, which was great.
Okay.
Um, but, as I've gotten older, I've started to value time with my family and time doing the things that I love. And really just so I looked to you and your firm to kind of give us an answer of like, what do we need to bring in
Mm,
to do that to that life? And that was really the point when I started considering transitioning to something other than another corporate job.
interesting. And so let's hone in on that. What are you doing now? Why? And why was that top of
So
mind?
I was I'm very fortunate. I will say I married up. Um, and my wife is an attorney and
Okay.
she's an estate planning attorney, which is what we call happy law. And it's happy law because when we complete an engagement with a client, they feel really good that they've got a plan. They've got their legacy secured. It's
Right.
not fighting. It's not
Mm,
a zero-sum game. We're basically just helping people solidify their plan so that they can feel confident that everything that they've built over their lifetimes is going to go to the people and entities they want it to go to. Uh,
wonderful.
and so as I was, going through this, gauntlet of different job interviews and networking, one of the things I really focused in on was, what is really my purpose? And what do I get joy from doing.
There you go.
And the common theme from my entire career has been helping people. When I
Yeah.
was in IT, I was, almost always on the customer support side of things, supporting our internal employees.
Yeah.
And then when I transitioned to the product side, I was supporting our millions of customers
Yeah.
and helping them achieve their goals. And so when I really got down to it, what I enjoyed was helping people.
There you go.
And at my prior company, I was able to do that at scale, by helping our millions of customers. And the intriguing opportunity with our little law firm here is that I could do that on an individual basis.
Mm.
And, we're there in the estate planning business and administration. We're there for people either to build a plan to secure their legacy or because somebody near and dear to them has passed and now they have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And so we're catching people at either their best and sometimes their worst times and really just being able to be there for them and to guide them through these difficult decisions and these
Mm.
processes um, was incredible. Was an opportunity I looked at and thought that looks exactly like the kind of thing I would really like to do.
Wow. There we go. And so, okay, so you went from the a corporate world working with essentially a Fortune 500 company, which is, your 401ks, your health insurance, your stock options, right? You have dental
Mhm.
and vision, the benefits, right?
Yes.
To a complete structure of benefits to now working in an environment where some of that is self-funded.
I refer to myself as an unpaid intern. Uh, for our little firm.
Yeah,
But I'm learning and we're making it work. So yeah, the exact opposite of the structure that I crave, basically, or that I craved and was all I knew for, 40 years.
right. And so over this last couple of years, Kevin, what have you learned about yourself? Um, we're talking about money here today. We're talking about transition. What have you learned about the last couple of years where you able to walk away from a corporate, you know, benefit package and continuity there to a world where that doesn't, maybe right now it doesn't exist, it certainly will with the direction you're going. How's that feel when it comes to money?
It was scary. I
Okay.
mean, it was really, really scary and, continues to be. So, one of the previous companies I worked at was a real estate brokerage,
Okay.
and I was their one-man IT show
Mm.
for basically for the office. And I remember having a discussion with some of these brokers because they would, you'd have people who wouldn't sell a property for months, if
Oh.
not a long time.
Mm.
And I remember having a discussion going, you know what? I get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You may never sell another house. How do you live with that uncertainty?
Wow.
And now and then for the last couple of years, I've had to live with that uncertainty because our business is pretty much based on hoping that the phone rings.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you we have built up confidence with each other and the law firm that you have that you're working with our clients, Kevin. We deeply appreciate that. And if anybody wants a referral to the law firm, the estate planning law firm, if you're looking at living trust and wills and things like that, certainly reach out to me and I'll direct the conversation towards Kevin and his team. And so, looking back, Kevin, if you're having a conversation with workmates that you worked at that are now maybe experiencing layoffs and they're reaching out to you, go, Kevin, how did you do it? How did you feel? All those type of questions and conversations. What advice would you give them?
What a great question. I'm trying to think back to the advice that I wish I had, when I
Mm.
went through this. But there's a couple of things that I think about is that first of all, transitions are hard. So give yourself some grace
There you go.
during it is, it was an emotional roller coaster for me for the last, couple of years, especially the first, about 9 months after being laid off.
Okay.
So I wish somebody had told me that I didn't need to panic about not having an interview or not having a job or just sheer panic for, where's my next paycheck going to come from?
Right.
Um, is that, taking some time for myself to be able to just like say that I don't need to work on finding a job 12 hours a day. uh,
Mm.
it's okay to do other things. Um,
Mm.
the other piece of advice, which I didn't get until about 6 months in, but was game changing for me, was to really hone in on that purpose. And what is it
Mm.
that gets you out of bed in the morning, or what brings you joy? What fills your bucket? Because that was honestly a massive inflection point for me when you're working with my Rise Smart coach at the time. Um, we got down to what I really enjoyed doing. And
Wonderful.
then, there was an opportunity for me to join my wife's firm and in the capacity in the role that I'm in now, which was something totally different, like you said, than a Fortune 500 company. And it's something I wouldn't have even considered until, kind of talking through it with somebody.
Mm.
So I think that's the third thing is, you know, having people to go through this with you.
There we go.
And whether that's your LinkedIn network, whether it's your friends, but being able to talk through this with somebody.
And let's not forget your financial advisor there, right?
Of course not. Mission critical to the entire process. And I know, all joking aside, I really do mean that because that was another thing that was really huge because, I was making an executive salary,
Hmm.
at the time, and to go, and I really needed to understand, do I need, in order for us to have the life we want to have, do I need to continue to pull in that same salary?
Yeah.
And what we learned was I didn't.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
was freeing. Like just knowing what you needed to bring in to live the life you wanted to live and
Yeah.
would be happy with was incredibly freeing, knowing that number.
Wow. That I've got goosebumps listening to that. And Kevin, you mentioned Rise Smart, which is an outplacement firm that I partner with, and that's how we met. I'd like to do a big shout out to them, and if you can elaborate a little bit more on your coach that you had there, started getting into conversations about purpose. Did you struggle with that initially? And just real briefly, talk to us a little bit about what that ultimately meant for you.
Yeah, and I did. Like I said, I hadn't looked for work for 24 years, so being like doing all the things that the coach wanted me to do or that you just have to do was completely foreign to me.
Mm.
And but what I'd say was one of my biggest surprises in working with my coach was it wasn't about finding job opportunities to apply to. It was about packaging myself and about understanding how to best position myself, but also how to find my own happiness and what is it that makes me happy. And in fact, I remember what right when we got to the end of the engagement, I was interviewing with two different companies.
Okay.
One was a fairly large company, so very familiar. One was a very small company. Um, and then also had this kind of where I am now percolating in the background.
Right.
And and I remember my coach explicitly said, "Why are you interviewing at that smaller company?
Hmm.
There's nothing for you there. You're gonna be, it's other than a paycheck. Why are you doing it?"
Mm.
And she was right. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I'm doing it purely for a paycheck. And so it kind of helped me figure out what do I long term want to do? And what we realized was that the law firm was our long term plan. So instead of trying to find these, what would be considered temporary or short term opportunities, why not just put everything into making this go?
Mm. That's right.
And that was the path we went down. Was like, okay, we're gonna figure out just how to make this thing go, and we're gonna put everything into that.
Yeah. And so how is everything going then, ultimately?
It's going wonderfully, frankly.
Okay.
First of all, I get to work with my best friend. And
There you go.
secondarily is, I get to do what I love, which is help people.
Hmm.
And third, by bringing an element in my experience with customer experience into this industry, into the legal industry, which,
Mm.
it's not necessarily known for great, client experiences,
Mm.
or is kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's been an opportunity for us to really make a name for ourselves. And
Mm.
what's really resonated with our clients and with us is that working with an attorney shouldn't be scary. It should,
Mm.
they work for you.
Yeah.
And so you should feel like you trust them to help you make good decisions. And ultimately that's what we really do. And so we just want to make what seems like an overwhelming process of creating your estate plan really easy.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to just, we do it as like a game of what if. If this happens, what do you want to have happen to your people, your assets, your stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. As I said earlier, the clients that work with Kevin and his firm's law practice are very complimentary. They're loving the experience okay. So I just want to transition over to the John Stokes financial experience.
Mhm.
So, what was that key factor on why you wanted to work with a financial planning firm? Maybe specifically John Stokes Financial, but generally speaking.
We had talked about it off and on for a while, but my wife and I are both do-it-yourselfers.
Okay.
And so we had been managing our finances for um, many years. And but it was at a very basic level. And I
Hmm.
think we'd just been very fortunate that over the years, the company's stock had been gangbusters, and
Yeah.
we got to experience, and so we were just putting a little bit every way. But what we started seeing was as we were getting closer to that retirement goal, the need to protect what we had built up, and the idea of having what we had built professionally managed became appealing. Uh,
Okay.
because, just with the uncertainty that we started seeing on the horizon,
Mm.
we just said, we don't have time to watch this stuff for ourselves. We really need somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Mm.
And your firm in particular really resonated from the presentation that you did. And just when we started talking, it's just the the relationship just grew naturally.
Yeah.
And it was very comfortable. And similar to kind of what we try to go through with our clients, when it feels very comfortable, there's something there.
Yeah.
And so that was what kind of sealed it really when for working with your firm, was that, you and your staff are just outstanding.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Kevin. So, last question here. Looking back, Kevin, was this was this a curveball or a blessing? Now, with 2.5 years out from that experience, how would you define all this?
It's a blessing that I wish upon nobody. We'll say,
Oh,
because it was, the road to get. So let me kind of, jump straight to the chase here.
okay.
It was an absolute blessing, and I'm happier than I feel like I've almost ever been in my career right now.
Wow.
But the road to get there was painful.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it was curveball doesn't even begin to describe. My entire world was turned upside down.
Yes.
And I didn't know what to do with myself. My wife says you were walking around like a lost puppy for
Uh,
months
oh, wow.
because, like I said, I'd been going to work since I was 11. So I
Yeah.
really didn't know what to do with myself without a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but what I didn't realize until after probably about the first 6 months of
Mm.
jumping into a completely different industry was how fried and how burnt out that I actually was. Um,
Wow.
and just that the idea that, this legal space was so new and
Mm.
exciting. And I remember as I was, learning about our industry, I would be, consuming everything I could.
Yeah.
And every time I learned something that I thought was interesting, I'd turn to my wife and say, "Hey, did you know?" And she'd say, "Yeah, I'm an attorney. I knew that." Um, of course, I knew that. And I'm like, but it's so crazy. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And it was just, but at the same time, also very disruptive because I came from a Silicon Valley based software company,
Yeah.
which that Silicon Valley ethos of move fast and break things
Right.
does not play well in the legal field. The legal industry is the exact opposite.
Mm.
And so that's a major adjustment I've had to come to terms with and make. But
Mhm.
what it's done is it slowed me down. And believe it or not, that's a good thing.
It is. It is. Kevin, as I said earlier, you have a phenomenal story. Just listening to, there is moments there I could have near cried. So you're right. I mean, a lot of people, or when they come to us, through getting laid off, they're frustrated, high anxiety, unknowns. I mean, your story from working as a paper boy to corporate America to now working in an environment where it's you and the law firm and a spouse. Wow, that's about change. So we really admire that. Kevin, thank you very much for your participation today. I think we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, John.